Hey, all you disgustingly resilient people out there. Welcome back to another episode of Profiles of Decay. And this week, we're going to be talking about the Death Guard Daemon Prince. Now, this one is the C Studios model that I had made. I had a custom service. If you check out the conversation with James Otero in one of our live streams on the YouTube channel, you can hear a little bit about that and how I got that made. So he's not the traditional model, but he is on the right size base. And we're going to talk more about him now. Let's get into it. Now, I have seen an introduction to this. There's a bit of me that's starting to get a bit worried that, like the Plaguecaster, we might have overlooked this guy a bit. The points is obviously a big, big barrier, and that's what's stopping a lot of us putting him on the table. But revisiting these data sheets with a 2 up, 4 up, the one without wings being T11, 10 wounds, the other one being T10 with 10 wounds. Like I said, got an invulnerable save, moves fast. Actually, there could be some room for this in our lists. So let's get into it a bit further. We're going to start with looking at the data sheet. The Daemon Prince without wings has got a 7-inch move, it's T11, 2 up save, 10 wounds, leadership 6, and OC of 3. So this makes him, not the fastest mover on the table, but for Death Guard, 7 inches is a pretty long way. He's got a mix of kind of weapon profiles as well. So we've got a Plague Spewer, which is anti-infantry 2 up. It's AP 1 natively. It does ignore cover, and it obviously auto hits. It's a 12-inch range. So, you're going to be wanting to put this Daemon Prince, at some point, springing him out and getting him into people's faces. Or equally, if he's sitting on a point, he's actually quite good at dealing with, damaging some low wound models. In terms of melee, though, the guy's got a Hellforged sword. Now, annoyingly, this is not like a Plague Hellforged sword. And this is one of the things that I do think is a problem with the data sheet. It doesn't have lethal hits like almost everything else does in the army that's melee, especially as he's called a Death Guard Daemon Prince. But the two profiles are Strike and Sweep. He's got 6 attacks, so he's actually got 1 more than Morty. It's hits on a 2, it's Strength 8, it's AP 2 and Damage 3. So flat 3 is really, really nice, particularly into stuff like Custodes or other Terminators, unless they've got Storm Shields. But in which case you can maybe do a bit of chip damage first. The AP 2 natively is good. It's as good as Death Shroud Terminators. With our Contagions, we can obviously make the opponent less tough. So you're taking a T9 model to wounding on a 4. The AP2 could go to an AP3 with our sickness, and obviously you can boost it up even further to AP4 with a strat. And if the enemy is on an infected contagion, a marker, then that could be going up to effectively an AP5 with the sickness with the AP2. The sweep attack gives you 14 attacks hitting on 2s. It's strength 6, which is great, but it's AP 0. Now, with your sickness, you're getting that to AP 1 on 14 attacks hitting on 2s is pretty decent. It is only damage 1, but once again, that's quite useful for just clearing some chaff off of a point, or if someone tries to out OC you on a point with a load of chaff. Going on to the abilities wise, Deadly Demise D3, so he does blow up, and he can do 3 mortal wounds. So that's something to watch out for when you're surrounding him with certain other things. And in terms of abilities, his single ability is going to be Grandfather's Blessing, which is whilst a friendly Death Guard infantry unit is within contagion range. So by round 3, that's going to be up to 9 inches. They get a 6 up Feel No Pain. So it's a little underwhelming, and I think this is probably why the Daemon Prince with wings, which we'll go on to in a second, probably outshines this guy. You look at what the normal Chaos Nurgle Daemon Prince gets, and it's a lot more interesting. We've talked about that in another video. But like I said, just remember that this guy is T11. I mean, he's as tough as a tank. He's got a 2 up save and a 4 up Feel No Pain and 10 wounds. With an easy leadership of 6 and OC of 3. So not too much to be sniffed at there. If we move on to the Death Guard Daemon Prince with wings, now he's less tough. He's T10. He's got an 11-inch move, though, so that's 4 inches more than the one without wings. Still the 2 up, 4 up. Leadership 6, OC 3, just the same. He's got a Plague Spewer and the same weapon profile. So he's faster. He's a little bit less tough. but he can get you into places, he can get onto points faster. An 11-inch move with an advance will get you onto almost any of the no man's land objectives that you need to turn one, if that's what you want to do. Abilities wise is where it kind of separates out a bit. He's still deadly demise D3, but he's got two abilities. One is that each time this model ends a charge move, select one enemy unit within engagement range of it, and that unit must take a battle shock test. So the interesting thing there is before you go into attack, the opponent can't use armor of contempt, couldn't use something to mitigate damage potentially as a strat if you do it if it's kind of before the fight phase. The other one is Devastating Assault. So each time this model ends a charge move, until the end of that turn, its Hellforged weapons have the Devastating Wounds ability. So this one is interesting. Given you've got a big 11-inch move to get you in close to make a charge pretty easy, a T10 is going to kind of survive Overwatch pretty good against most things. Like even heavy flamers are going to be wounding you on 5s, and then even if you do take a few, you've got 10 wounds to kind of get that through. You've got either 14 attacks hitting on 2s, strength 6, could be AP 1 if you've got your sickness on, like we talked about before, and then 6s are doing devastating wounds. But really, you probably want to do that with the heavy attacks. So if you've got 6 attacks on him and they're flat 3, and you can get devastating wounds on that, and you haven't got a roll to get this ability, it's just innate. So you're not risking taking mortal wounds when you roll a 1. This makes it kind of interesting. Like I said, the points is probably the bit that's is causing us some problems here. But we don't have really anything else in the army that moves, kind of this quick with a 2-up, 4-up. That's got kind of 10 wounds and a low leadership. You could throw a tank out there, but something like a Predator doesn't have an invulnerable save. It's an interesting model. Keywords wise, monster character, so assassinate. There are certain abilities that do extra damage or wounds or attacks into monsters, so one to think about. It has got fly on this one, so anything that's got anti-fly 2-up could do some damage to him. He is a psyker, is a demon, so Grey Knights, any weapons like that can damage kind of demons better, or I've got anti-psyker weapons. He is going to have these. None of his attacks though are psychic, so that's another thing to think of. So the enhancements are where these guys actually get quite a lot of benefits. Living Plague with the 3 inches to the contagion range, that is going to give in round 3 a 9-inch aura of 6-up Feel No Pain on the Demon Prince without wings. Really useful for Terminators, for Plague Marines. They could also be sat behind a wall, this guy could, and be giving out this big aura of protection to something that you needed to put onto a point, which then could tank something and survive it, and then he can come out, smash into it, and kill it afterwards. The droning is while you've got enemy units in contagion range of the bearer, they fail a battle shock test. Then on a 2 to 5, they're taking 1 mortal wound. On a 6, they're taking D3 mortal wounds. So you could have a Plague Burst Crawler mortaring a unit, it failing a battle shock test, Demon Prince behind the wall, or within 9 inches in turn 3, and they're taking mortal wound or maybe mortal wounds. The Demon Prince with wings, on the charge, he, as we remember from the abilities we just talked about, he will cause them to take a battle shock test. So could charge in, cause a battle shock test, cause mortal wounds. Deadly Pathogen, so add 1 to the strength and attacks characteristic of the bearer's melee weapon. So that puts this up to a strength 9, 7 attack on strike, or it's going to be, 14 attacks on sweep. That gives you a lot of extra damage to go into something, especially when it's flat 3, or the chance to get that extra attack in. When you charge in with the Demon Prince with wings, and you get devastating wounds as well on 6s, that extra attack gives you another chance to get another flat 3 straight through on dev wounds. And of course, Shamble Rot, which is making the unit being targeted for a charge, -2 to charge rolls. So just helping him kind of survive that bit further, or to not actually force your opponent to fail that charge. These all sync up really, really well with this model, particularly the first 3, and can actually really enhance its gameplay. So what are my final thoughts about this little guy? Well, If you're not taking Mortarion and you want a bit of a beat stick potentially in the list, then even at 195 points, maybe more if you're going to put in a deadly pathogen, then one of these guys, I would say the one with wings is probably the one to take, is probably an interesting investment to try out. It's fast, you can do devastating wounds, it's got really high toughness, loads of wounds. It's got a 2-up, 4-up save. He's got an 11-inch move, so can get around the board to points quickly and react quickly into enemies. He is a character, so he is going to be giving up Assassinate if you put him on the table, potentially. But there's not many units in the game that, in the codex or the index that are as kind of as tough as the guy. He has got a flamer. It is anti-infantry 2-up. It is -1 AP natively, and then he's got quite a heavy hitting weapon. Could be interesting. Personally, I think, does it deserve a points drop or does it need a points drop? Yes, it probably does. But I think it's time to give him a run out and see if it works. I'm not sure about the one without wings. I think at 160 points, there's probably other stuff in the index that does more. But as potentially a mini Morty, when you don't want to necessarily take him for the 325, I think the one with wings could be a thing to try out. Anyway, that's my final thoughts. This has been Death God Dave, Profiles of Decay, and that was Daemon Prince.